Ladies and gentlemen, this week on Wildstar Weekly, I want to talk to you about the word of RNGsus. Have you accepted RNGsus into your heart? I hope so, but more likely, you've accepted RNGsus into your trade skills. That's right, this week on Wildstar Weekly, I'm going to talk about crafting. More accurately, I'm going to talk about gear crafting and circuit board crafting, as they colloquially call it in the streets. Because while I love what Carbine is doing with crafting, there's also some pretty friggin' serious problems with it. But of course, in such discussions, we should probably start with a little bit of context, in case, you've never made anything, or you're like a technologist or something else useless. I'm sorry, technologists, I'm just kidding, keep making me power cores, please. So in Wildstar, if you want to craft a piece of gear, you wind up in one of 4 trade skills. You got weaponsmithing, armorer, outfitter, or tailor. They craft all of the armor and all of the weapons in the game, except for, support systems, but they don't really have a craft. Don't worry about it. They craft the important bits, like the stuff you wear on your chest so that when you get stabbed by a monster, it has to go through an inch of metal before it kills you. When crafting these items, you are given the circuit board minigame. This is to say that you are given a certain number of nodes based on the item you are crafting. Each of these nodes has an elemental affinity. Each elemental affinity attaches to certain statistics, and you can select which statistics to slot into each one of these nodes. If you mismatch, it gives you a little bit of a failure chance, and you can under or overpower different nodes as you need to in order to make sure that your craft is successful. Sounds like a pretty cool system, doesn't it? It allows you to kind of put your own spin on gear by selecting what stats you want to have, in what item you want to have. Gives you a really good amount of control over crafting. Instead of being constrained to specific items that you are given from a table, you have the ability to choose essentially what item you're making. It also makes crafting more flexible and dynamic. It's a good idea, and it makes it more engaging. But there's a couple of issues that I would like to bring up today, and hopefully we can find a way past them, because I think this crafting system could be really cool if it weren't so goddamn aggravating. So those nodes I told you about that have an elemental affinity. When you begin a craft on an item, you are given between 1 and 3 of these nodes, and what element each node is randomly selected from a pool of 6. That means that if you are looking for a specific combination of nodes in order to achieve an optimal number of a specific combination of statistics, in order to get all 3 of these nodes to line up correctly, because mind you, they can repeat, you have a 1 in roughly 212 chance of getting the specific combination you want. Now, through talents, you can bring this down to 1 in 27, but that is still ridiculous odds. That is insane odds on getting something that you need and getting the optimal set of slots for your abilities. That is insane! So what? What happens if you don't get your optimal lineup of stats? You can still slot in whatever stat you want into whatever element you want, it just won't mismatch. Well, this comes to the major problem here, because I'm gonna be straight with you, Carbine, everybody out there, undercharging an item because you have to undercharge an item sucks and is not fun. If you get a mismatched slot, it increases the failure chance of that slot substantially, to the point where you have to reduce the amount of stats you're getting from the mismatched slot by undercharging it. This feels like crap, because based on the statistics I rattled off earlier, it is almost a statistical inevitability that you will randomly get incorrect slots and have to undercharge your gear. Basically, in almost every situation, you are forced to undercharge if you are looking for specific statistics on your items. And undercharging for the sake of undercharging because you got RNG'd into have to undercharge and making your item less good, even though you're probably putting in a lot of resources to get that item, really sucks. Like, a lot. This is kind of compounded by the fact that you can get multiple of the same slot, but there are certain elemental affinities within these slots that only have 1 stat acquired to them. That would be okay if you could, say, repeat stats, but you can't. So if you get, say, a life slot, or 2 life slots on your gear, God forbid, you have to put 1 into focus pool, and then you are forced to undercharge the other one, because there is no other stat that goes into a life slot, and you can't take the same stat twice. These systems aren't very fun, Carbine, and for a crafting system that is set up to be fun, there's clearly a lot of intention to be fun and be dynamic. This kinda sucks. But of course, I have a golden rule. I don't like to complain on the internet unless I can offer a solution as well, and here is my solution to the circuit board crafting RNG problem. First of all, give us the opportunity to select stats by applying additional resources to the craft. Say, I have to apply 20 signs of fire on an item level 80 item that I'm crafting to guarantee a fire slot. And I could do this for every slot, so I could pay 20 signs of fire, 20 signs of earth, and 20 signs of logic if I want to guarantee a fire, earth, and logic slot. This is a sacrifice because that's a lot of signs which you would be also using in rune crafting to make sure that you are getting these optimal stats. By giving people the ability to guarantee what slots they're getting within a craft, it means that they can use undercharging and overcharging for their actual intended usage to create a more dynamic crafting system. I like the idea of being able to undercharge, say, a vigor stat if I can overcharge my crit stat to get more crit out of it. That's cool. Being forced to undercharge because I got fucked by RNG, not so cool. Additionally, allow it so that if you do go for the RNG option by not putting any resources in and just decide to roll the dice, you can take the same stat twice in the same element. So if I get, God forbid, 2 life slots, I can just pile up some extra focus pool from it and not be immediately forced to undercharge. Now, I also understand that you need to retain a level of difficulty within crafting, and I get that, because crafting items have the potential to be even more powerful than items from the dungeons that they are sitting alongside. So it makes sense to have it be difficult. Maybe allow guaranteeing of slots through the talent system instead of just giving you the ability. Say when you hit to that level 3 or 4 talent that says, oh, you can either lock out a water slot so you never get water slots, or lock out a fire slot so you never get fire slots. Instead, make it so, well, you can guarantee a fire slot or a water slot, but you don't have to. You have the option. You can still go with no resources and roll the dice on slots. This also means that when you're crafting for, say, somebody who isn't you, you don't have to immediately go and reset all of your talents because you have to be able to get a water slot now for multi-hit. I think these 2 major changes, giving you the ability to choose to guarantee slots with additional resources and talents, and the ability to double up on certain stats in the event that you do roll badly, will make the crafting system a lot more interesting, because it means that you're not constantly sacrificing on your gear. Currently, crafting gear is constantly inferior to stuff of the same item level, because so often you see it has to get undercharged for one reason or another. Maybe you got 2 life slots, and that sucks. Or maybe you just simply rolled badly on your slots and you needed to put different stats in because it turns out that strike through is useless on a healer. There's a lot more cool stuff you can do with this crafting system, and there's a huge amount of potential because it is a really cool crafting system. No other game has a crafting system really as robust and interesting that allows you to slot in the stats that you want from a pure item. Well, maybe some other games, but none of them I think do it as well as Carbine and Wildstar do. So please, make a couple of tweaks and make this crafting system even better so that more people will want to craft, because it's really cool. And like, while you're at it, could you make it so I don't have to pay twice? I mean, I buy the crafting item, which is money, and then I pay to craft, which is more money. I know you have to take money out of the economy and stuff like that, but come on.